Big news today, another terrorist attack, this time in London. I want to bring in Diana Blass for all the details. Diana, what do you got for us?
There's no known connection between Friday morning's bomb attack in London and New York City, but the NYPD is still on high alert.
I can't say I'm nervous. I do notice we went through Grand Central Station and we noticed that there's more of a police presence, and even walking around here I noticed there was a lot more police and seen a couple military guys. But does it make me nervous? No, I can't say it does.
The homemade bomb exploded on the District Line Friday morning during rush hour at the Parsons Green station, injuring at least 29 people. Police quickly called it a terrorist incident, making it Britain's 5th attack this year. President Trump quickly reacted on Twitter. One tweet reads, quote, "Another attack in London by a loser terrorist. These are sick and demented people who were in the sights of Scotland Yard." In New York City, I'm Diana Blass with Chasing News.
Thank you, Diana. The big question is, can it happen here? And one of the folks that you need to hear from is former NYPD Commissioner Bernie Kerik, who was there on the ground during 9/11. Bernie, thank you for joining me on Chasing News. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
So let me ask you the question, Bernie. Can it happen here?
It can happen anywhere. It's happened in London numerous times. It's happened in Spain. We've had attacks here in San Bernardino, Orlando, Boston. It's not if they're going to do this, it's going to be when they're going to do it and how they're going to do it. And anybody that doesn't get it, they're either just stupid and naive or they have their head in the sand.
Bernie, so what's happening with the NYPD today? What kind of preparations are they taking? What do you think they're doing right now?
Well, the good thing is the New York City Police Department, unlike municipalities around the country, they actually have detectives that work in these foreign countries, countries like England. So I'm sure they have real-time data that's coming into the NYPD right now, into the intelligence division, and it's getting fed out to the field.
Bernie, let me ask you, what the president tweeted out today about Scotland Yard potentially having these potential terrorists, we don't know who they are yet, on a list. Do you think it's time we get to profiling?
Well, listen, I've always said we should be predictive profiling. People, in a circumstance like this right away, if these guys were Muslim and somebody mentions profiling, they jump to racial profiling. No, it's not racial profiling. It's predictive criminal profiling. You need to know where these people come from, who they are, where they hang out, who they associate with, where they live, the mosques they go to, they worship in, because that's where a lot of them would meet. That's
Bernie,
reality.
some of that, though, sounds almost like a science fiction movie. I'm reminded of Minority Report, right? We're going to predict who's going to commit the next crime. Is it realistic, and is the controversy too much for people to swallow here in the States?
You know what it is? It's all about political correctness. Unfortunately, we live in a world today where the political correctness takes priority. That should be a backseat to national security and keeping us safe.
All right, Bernie, thank you very much. Appreciate you joining me today.
Thank you.
All right, I want to bring in our A-list panel to weigh in on this. I'm joined by Archange Antoine. You're the Executive Director of Faith in New Jersey. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Good to have you back. Laura Nanos, you are a publisher you're a contributor, to lawnews.com. Good to see you. And an attorney and a mom and a TV personality. Always good to see you, Laura. And Wayne Smith, former mayor of Irvington. Wayne, let me start with you. As a mayor, talking to Bernie Kerik, I tend to agree with him. I think that it's very difficult to, what are we going to do, have metal detectors and soldiers at every tube stop, at every MTA stop? It seems to me that we are already at the point we got to start profiling. What do you say?
Well, we should never profile. I think police intelligence is a whole different matter where you have information or evidence that some group is doing something. But how could you profile Timothy McVeigh when he did the Oklahoma bombing? So you cannot take a group of people and arbitrarily put them in a particular category. Intelligence and evidence should drive what we do.
Laura, do you agree with that? I mean, the left always invokes the image of white supremacists and anti-government folks, but the reality is we've been under attack by Muslim extremists, terrorists since 9/11. Actually, going before that, 1993, the first World Trade Center hit. So what do you say to this idea that we can't keep ourselves safe unless we know who the guys are before they act?
I think that those are the wrong questions to ask. I mean, you're right. There's been terror attacks by various groups of people, but I think when we start looking at the groups first and the crime second, we're already failing. The police can do better than this. The police can do, like Bernie Kerik said, profiling that is not racial or religious profiling, but is basically good police work. Like Wayne said, good intelligence. The police can do better than just rounding up groups of people and deciding these are all the bad guys. When they do that, they fail.
Address that. We're not talking about rounding anybody up, but certainly to what the president said today. He said Scotland Yard. He's at least saying this. I don't know if he had a briefing that we didn't have. I assume he did.
He always has.
That Scotland Yard knew something, and there was a list. And how many times are we going to hear about somebody on a watch list that commits a heinous act? Why weren't they rounded up or arrested or at least questioned before it happened?
Because in America, we have rights, civil liberties, and we have to respect people's freedoms. But at the end of the day, when you talk about terrorism, it's people who strike terror. That has happened in 9/11, and that's also happened in Charlottesville. And if we're going to start profiling, I disagree with Bernie. I think he looks at this country as a very narrow view.
Are you going to compare a rally in Charlottesville to what happened on the tube today, or what happened in Spain, or what happened in London a few months ago, or what happened in New York on 9/11?
Nobody died in the tube today. Somebody lost their life in Charlottesville. And I think we need to take terrorism very serious all across the bill.
So you think that's terrorism? You have two groups that showed up to fight, and a woman dies, and you're comparing that to Muslim extremists that want to kill Americans and our allies?
No, what I am saying is that we have Muslims in this country who are citizens who've been in this country longer than some of us in this room, and they are just as American as everybody else, and it's wrong to profile them because of what a small group of people do. Now, if we're talking about profiling, what do we do with the terrorists who killed the young lady in Charlottesville?
Real quick, do you feel safe on the New York City subways today?
I would ride the subway. I would hope that we would have the right intelligence that deals with our safety.
All right, got to leave it there. Thank you, guys.